This is Heidi Helf, and you're listening to the Agile Uprising podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Agile Uprising podcast. I'm your co-host, Claudia Orozco-Gomez, and Hrcsko. So today we are joined by Mikkel Noe-Nygaard and Luxshan Ratnaravi. Sorry, tried my best. From Comic Agile. So first off, can we just say, how do you say it?
Yes, how do you want to say it?
Yeah.
Well, Luxshan, he's our language expert on that one.
So I think it's kind of French. So we try to make it French because that just sounds cool. So I think it's Agile, Comic Agile.
So I happen to speak French and live in France.
I don't know.
Agile. So I totally read it in French when I saw it, just because the accent is there.
So you can tell us if is that how you pronounce it?
If you want to, yeah. Let's
Okay.
see that's it then.
We want to.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome. So I'll kick us off. I personally have been following your work for a while. And for those listeners who aren't aware, Mikkel and Luxshan have just put out the book, Comic Agile. I think I got it right, which is a long-running internet comic. You've seen it all over LinkedIn. I know a bunch of Agile nerds have shared it back and forth all over Twitter. I've seen it in almost every Discord I'm part of with Agile practicing and speaking. And they recently put it into print, right? So there's a hard copy version available with the forward by Kent Beck and Dave Snowden. If you don't know who Kent Beck and Dave Snowden are, you probably got to go back to some of our early episodes. And maybe reconsider, when you're doing your homework. But anyway, first off, I wanted to tell you guys, first of all, a job well done, right? Because I love it. Like, there were times where I was reading this book and I actually caught myself laughing out loud. And my wife knows when I'm reading like work stuff because I have highlighters and all this stuff out. And she comes around the corner and I'm reading what amounts to a comic book. And she knows it's work specific because I got a highlighter in one hand and flags in the other. And I'm laughing. And she's like, "Are you doing work stuff? Or like, what are you reading? Is that an X-Men book?" I'm like, no, it's work. It's work related. It's work related. So I got to get that out of the way. Kudos on a job well done. So I guess let's start from the beginning. So where did the idea of creating a comic strip actually come from?
Frustration.
Okay.
So should I start off, Mikkel, and then you can continue the story
sure.
afterwards? So we worked together in a company a couple of years ago, Vestas, who makes wind turbines, basically. There's a lot of software in that as well. So we were hired fairly around the same time as a new Agile team. I was the PO and Mikkel was UX guy. And we were supposed to, change the company, work Agile, be this ninja team who would show and lead the way on how to work collaboratively with the customer and Agile and all these good things. And I think that was the intention, right? And there's a limit to everything. So we just started hitting the limit on how flexible we could really be, how adaptable could we be. And this led to, long story short, this led to a lot of frustrations. We had to do something. We had to find some sort of outlet. And I guess being the people we are, we make comic strips. So Mikkel is very visual and good at drawing stuff. And I think I'm good at making stuff absurd or fun. And we started making some small comic strips, very company-specific ones, and placed them around coffee machines and stuff like that. And people gave us pretty good feedback on that. They loved it. And then what happened, Mikkel?
I think we started. We thought about maybe we should share this for a wider audience, and what good place to go for that than Facebook, right? The most professional social media platform in the world, or at least the biggest one and the one I think we knew best. So we started sharing some of the early Stripe panels on Facebook and got some responses and we got some likes and some shares and all that. But what we really dreamt about, well, it wasn't Facebook. It was we had higher bigger plans, right? And that was Instagram, of course, because Instagram, that's where all the cool people are.
Very true. Very true.
So you get to be a part of the cool kids.
Of course, yes, and also we saw tons of money just floating around on Instagram, right? And we had these dreams of 500,000 followers on Instagram and being these influencer types traveling around the world with our comic strips and all that. But it sort of just dawned on us that well, we didn't have enough cats in our panels, and it wasn't enough about relationships. So no, Instagram, that wasn't for us.
All right. So then what happened? Just stick to the agile stuff, no cats?
Yeah, no, yeah, well, it's sort of just, I don't know who came up with that. We found there was a platform called LinkedIn. Of course, we had been on that for ages, but it sort of was an accident, or maybe I don't know. How was it?
I think it was an experiment in the agile spirit. Yeah, I think around the holiday season in 2020, I think we tried just putting our most popular one on Facebook, on LinkedIn, the one with the Scrum Master and the baby, and things just exploded. People loved it and shared it thousands of times, and I think we realized LinkedIn, that's our platform. That's where the business angles really make sense, and that's where people can tag their manager and their teammates and whatnot. So that's the platform for us, and since then it's just taken off, you know.
So I gotta admit, I took the bait on LinkedIn as well, and I think a lot of people started sharing. But there was a debate that we were having. So the earlier comic strips on LinkedIn, is it me or was there no commentary on them? Kind of feel like the first one, they were just there. Okay, take it as it is. And then there was the commentary that was added afterwards. So how did that come about?
I think, it's a weird process. So initially, you're right. We just put it out there, and it was kind of, in its own self. You could think whatever you want, and you still can. But I think people started asking us for advice, or how could you manage this anti-pattern? What do I do in this situation? And we wanted to. We had an idea. We want to make a book eventually. So if you want to make a book, you need to add some sort of, professional value, I guess, rather than just making fun of things. It's kind of a hypothesis we had. Maybe we don't have to, but we did. So we wanted to make some content, like more value-adding content, you could say, advice that people could take and maybe try to implement or reflect on. So I guess that's what motivated us to start writing some commentary, you could call it, alongside each strip.
And I think that remark, Claudia, is actually kind of powerful because it tells you, I'm going to end up insulting somebody, but I really don't care. It's my show. I don't care. It tells you the kind of practitioner you're dealing with by how they, when your people's reaction to things speaks more about them than it does about the content itself. And when I saw
the thing about Worm, we'll come back to that.
I think like some of the biting commentary is one of those like where the best ones are the ones I go, ooh, and then I went, oh man, they're right. But you understand that yes, situationally this is what we encounter, and then well, how do I undo that? That's almost to your point, Luxshan, it's almost the said unsaid, where this is something, okay, this is the scenario you're going to be presented with. How do I deal with it? And I thought that getting the book and then seeing the explanations belohand, like, hey, look, like this is the kind of thing that you're all going to get punched in the face with, where like the one that's fresh in my mind, the Scrum Master that we need versus the Scrum Master we hire, right? We need the drill instructor, Navy SEAL, Special Forces guy, and you end up with someone with a CSM with 2 days of training. No offense to anybody with CSM and 2 days of training, but obviously, I think they would admit they don't have the experience.
It could have been PSM as well, right?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I forgot. We're talking about Europeans, so it could be PSM. But I thought to me, the thing was, we tell our narrative and analogy is how a metaphor, I should say. Metaphor is how we make sense of the world. It's how we communicate with each other. And a lot of these were very metaphorical to the trials and tribulations of what we go through. The one that still resonates in my head, where I still laugh, I got to put links in the show notes. The one where there's the guy wandering the halls of what looks like a zombie apocalypse, and he has to take a Scrum class, and he ends up in the PMO office, and he says, but I'm Prince 2 certified, and the last panel says, it's either this or leading safe. Like that was one where I kind of just dropped my phone, and I was like, oh, they're right. Like, but you talk about how in that specific example, inflicting training on an organization that's not ready to receive it yet, you're going to get some bad outcomes. So that humorous part is what actually makes these more resonant than reading a very dry book, right, with 800 pages telling you here's all the anti-patterns. It's the visual, to your point, Luxshan, you use the word snarky, right? The kind of snarky remark where you're like, yeah it makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's also sort of cut out into chunks, so you can just read one page, one panel, and there's a point in that. And we have this nice body text that says, oh, well, how to avoid that, or why are you in this situation? But it's very digestive. Whereas these the bricks, right? You have to read them end to end in order to get that value that you think you want, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's why we get so good feedback on it. It's very digestive and gets right.
I think what we're dreaming about, and what we're sorry for interrupting, what we're dreaming about and what we see happen is actually people printing out our strips and putting them everywhere in the companies by copy machines. And we even wrote in the how to read this book section that if you want a high-res version edition of the comic strip, let us know and we'll send it to you free of charge, of course, and you can print it. We want to have these discussions going on. That's our mission, right? It's to improve agile practitioners by starting to talk about what's so crazy about this whole industry.
Right. And to that point, we're in an industry, let's be honest here, it's very much driven by consulting, right? Where you have something to sell and your company namesake is on the line. So you have to tell people that, of course, this works. We're just going to send you home on a Thursday. We're going to build a bunch of Agile tables. Claudia comes back in on Monday. She's now no offense to say, a release train engineer. She has 6 teams on her. It's just going to work, right? Where the reality is sometimes it doesn't. And you very deftly call out some of the honest problems that we have. Like the one that resonates with me, which I've actually taken a picture with my phone. I have to take you up on that offer to email you and get a good copy. The one about cumulative flow diagrams, right? Okay. Because that is my favorite diagram. And yet every single Agile practitioner I know knows that you basically need an MBA, an MFA, and like some sort of like dance degree to be able to explain those effectively, right? And while it is the most powerful image you can use as far as metrics go in an iterative world, it is not easy to grok. And when you have the guy sits back and he goes, oh, but it looks so pretty with all the colors. That was another one where I just kind of sat there and went, ooh, right in the feels.
I had to accept that I was the butt of the joke on that one. I have had somebody explain this to me over and over, different people, and I just don't get it. I get what it's supposed to do, and my brain just doesn't register it. So I thought, okay, that's fine. I'm the one we're making fun of on that one.
Yes, and I'll try being the person actually explaining it, and not really fully getting it.
Well, sometimes I don't get the point either. Because
of our comics.
But Luxshan, he's sort of he is the expert, right? I'm just the guy that draws. So, and of course I've got some experience in it, but there are certain aspects of the theory that I really have to explain, or new metrics or new visualizations that you have to show me why they work, right? So I've learned so much doing this actually.
And the complementary part here is because Mikkel comes from a UX background, he kind of emphasizes or challenges me in making the punchline more clear than I'll make it, because I think, everyone will get this. So he has this outside-in view on it. So I think that's why we match each other very well, and the points are hopefully very clear.
So I kind of want to dive into that a little bit more, because you were saying, Mikkel, there's a lot that you have to learn to get it. You cover so much ground on these. Like how do you even go about doing that? If we talk about the books, the frameworks, the tools, everything that you're covering here, how do you even just go about learning all this? Because I learned just from rereading cover to cover.
I'm happy to hear that. Well, there are different depths to our knowledge, of course, of the different frameworks, right? So some frameworks where we have personal experience in, and others we just have a theoretical. Like, for instance, SAFe and LESS, I have more experience in than for instance.
We're going to park that one because I want to come back to that.
Okay. Okay. So some of it, it could be portrayed a bit as if we were experts in all of it, but we're not really. We're in much of it, but not. We can make fun of some stuff that we don't have personal experience in, just because it's crazy. Like Prince 2 Agile in itself. I never worked in that context, but I can see why it's kind of yeah. I don't know what it is, but it's different.
Mikkel, so you were saying that you learn just in the process of making these.
Yeah, well, I've been working with software forever, or since forever. It feels like forever. So of course I've been exposed to I think all kinds of flavors of these agile methodologies and also ways of implementing them. So I know my way around, but it's just I don't read up on a new theory or all that. So there's just some things that I grudgingly have to accept that only Luxshan knows.
Right. So I think I'm kind of along same lines as you. We're conversational. We're probably not as fluent as Jay or Luxshan.
You don't flatter us both. The other I would say almost serendipitous timing for this book, right, is we preach all the time as agile coaches, as practitioners, about creating a safe environment, right? Organizational safety, the ability to walk in and, what is it? The bellwether of a truly free society is being able to express your opinions without having someone actively attack you, right? So we say all these things, and yet when you try to call agile as a practice on its bullshit, right? Do it on Twitter. Just create it. I'm telling any listener, if you're a listener who doesn't have a Twitter account, create a fake agile Twitter account. Say something like "no estimates is trash," and then put hashtag agile and watch the people come out of the woodwork, right? Like, and my point being is we don't really turn the mirror upon ourselves. It's very easy to sit there and say the client does this wrong, the client does that wrong. You should have done this. Whereas this book calls us truthfully on a lot of our BS, a lot of the stuff that we tell people that we know behind the scenes.
You've even got a consulting company after it, Agile BS. I love it.
like we know, but we don't talk about it, and we should be talking about it because that's where the growth comes from. And you guys are kind of calling us on some of our BS, right? Like it's the one we were just talking about, the one where the manager is laying on the couch talking to what amounts to Sigmund Freud, and he's talking about his transformation and how it's going to change and everyone's going to be empowered. And then what do I have to do? And his response is, I have to do everything in my power to make this agile transformation fail. And the shrink goes, exactly. It's like, my God, I work with this person. I work with a lot of these people, right? So you confront the uncomfortable truth that we don't like to talk about. You actually confront it in a very light way that makes you kind of stop and think.
Oh, that's very happy to hear that. That's
I've been sending pictures of these all over the place. I got it while I was on vacation. Claudia will tell you I was sitting there just reading and taking pictures and bombing every text channel we're both part of, because I'm like, this is resonant. Like they're calling us on our BS. Claudia, you wanted to poke at the safe.
I do. So you have got a whole lot on safe, and it's not all bad. So I just wanted to know, what do you really think
about
safe?
Well,
we won't tell Dean, I promise.
Well, we have an NDA with safe, so we can't really say anything about it. Sorry.
They paid us to make the positive ones. No, I'm just kidding.
We figured as much.
Well, seriously, I think safe can be a relevant point on your agile journey. We saw it in our own company. Introducing safe actually made us better at the team level agile work, because we had good agile consultants who understood that. So safe can, for some companies, be an excuse to kind of revamp or restart their agile journey. But I think you should really see it as a point, a stop on your journey that you can move away from, because it's very much about managing dependencies and not so much about eliminating them. So for some companies, it can be a relevant and value-adding stop on their journey. But I think you should always try to kind of descale before investing in the overhead of safe.
Right.
So it's a means to achieve something, but reflect about it critically.
It's like the hammer, right? Luxshan is the hammer. When you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And if this is all you're aware of, that's all you're going to try and use.
Yes. Think about the pain behind having safe, because if the pain is we have many dependencies, then that's not the solution. If it's about creating a collective cadence between the dependencies that we don't want to or cannot remove, then having a release train can actually do wonders for you. Right? So it's just a means. I don't have a positive or negative thought about it, but what we need to be aware of, what anti-patterns a framework can drive. A framework is never evil in itself, but but you need qualified agile coaches and managers and whatnot to kind of drive the right behaviors if a framework sets a direction that's not good for your company. So
yeah, it makes me think of I think it's the unsafe protest. So I was thinking, God, these guys are safe bashing. It's an easy target, you got to say, because of all the anti-patterns.
Yeah.
But then you get to the unsafe protest where you've got all these people that are protesting because safe is unagile. And then you've got somebody saying, okay, well, what has this done for your company? I'm totally butchering this one, but actually we're speaking to our customers now and we're more aligned than we were before. I love safe.
Yes.
It's one of those weird things where I had this conversation with somebody the other day where their biggest concern with any of the frameworks is, first of all, you create zealots, right? You create dogmatists, where I think this is the only thing in the world. The funniest word I've ever heard used to describe an agile zealot was a snowbird. And I hope that term gets more traction, because I think that's actually brilliant in and of itself.
A fundamentalist.
Right. Yeah. The agile fundamentalists should be called snowbirds, right? With white robes and stuff, looking like Kent Beck. But I think some of the biggest complaint with a lot of the stuff that coaches coach or people preach is they get the message that comes across in the curricula, right? Or they get the message that comes across in the book, but they don't understand the theory behind it, right? And what is it? Theory without practice is useless. Practice without theory is expensive, right? And I just had this conversation with Ben, our buddy Ben, the other day, where we were talking about all of Reinertson's work, right? Let's be honest here. That book is a bear to read. It's a bear to read. And he didn't write it to be easily accessible, right? But when you read that book and then you look at what Dean pulled into the SAFe framework, you're like, oh, well, that makes sense. Well, that makes total sense, right? Okay, I get the theory behind it, but the people who don't just run around and start yelling about queue depth and cost of holding, and it's like,
all right, Jay, you've gone down.
I'm sorry, I went full nerd.
I'm looking at Mikkel's face now. Sorry, because he and I have probably got the same look on our face. So
sorry, Luxshan and I. This is where we go at a bar. We go off into some corner somewhere and start yelling, and we draw a CFD on the wall, and there's post-its everywhere. Yeah.
Yes,
and
I can imagine.
Mikkel and I are just enjoying our beer somewhere else, talking about cats.
Yeah.
So I do want to ask, you had two very big agile luminaries, right? The intro to the book. You had Kent Beck and you had Dave Snowden, who I'm a a Snowdenite, right? Truly admitted. How did that come about? How did getting Kent and getting Dave just to write your intro?
We just asked them.
Awesome.
I said yes.
That was easy. Man, that was easy.
Was it easier than you thought it would be?
Yeah. So the reason we asked those two guys was because they actually shared some of our previous work. So we just referred back to that, right? And said, hey, you shared some of this. Would you like to write a foreword, please? We can't pay you anything. And they're like, sure.
That's awesome.
That was really easy.
I think
so
actually,
happy.
Yeah, I actually think that sort of way that we got those guys to write forward is very descriptive of the whole engagement that we have on our panels, on our comics, right? I know we did it, but it feels like sort of a community thing, and there's a lot of people taking ownership of this concept because no one had this before, right? Of course we had Dilbert and all that, but that's sort of it's more generic, and it's got another history and all that. So I think there's a lot of people that have really yearned for having sort of this something that we can have together in our little secret club here, right? That a lot of people take ownership in this, and we can see this in all the comments that get on on LinkedIn as well. For example, this unsafe protest, that commentary track exploded, and actually I think some are also a long discussion between two pretty big guys in the industry, right? That almost got into a fight on that one. So there's so much passion in it, and there's so much engagement that that's why we keep going as well.
Yeah, and talking about the co-creation part and community part. So here's a little secret: some of the commentary is actually based on some of the comments we get. So we're not, there are people out there smarter than us, believe it or not. Even you, Jay. So
I am the dumbest. I try to be the dumbest person in the room, and I'm convinced I'm the dumbest person in the room in every room I walk into. Yeah. I'm convinced.
So there's a bit of co-creation without them knowing it. Actually, when there's a good point in the commentary or in a comment on LinkedIn, we actually stole some of those points because it's a community thing. We're not just experts here.
So who doesn't fit into this community? Who are these comments not for?
Oh, who are they not for? I would like to say nobody. Yeah. What do you think, Mikkel?
There are some people on which the joke gets lost.
Yeah.
That really take sort of, okay, those KPIs that you just draw, that doesn't make sense. Or it doesn't, you can't really have that one rising and that one falling and all that. So there are people that doesn't get the joke.
They just take it too literally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or if they're very new to Agile, I think if they're very new and they haven't seen this, if you're straight out of university or something, and you haven't seen this, you probably won't get the jokes because you haven't seen it fail. Right? So I think kind of semi-experienced practitioners, our audience. So if you're totally new to it or you don't know anything about it, then it's not an introduction to Agile, right?
Right. So, right. It would be very much like coming out of your PSM and picking up the Cliff Berg book Agile 2, right, which basically opens a kimono and lays everything bare. You have no frame of reference to understand what this guy is railing against. But at the same time, those who, to your point, Luxshan, those of us who have been in that trench and truthfully have gotten punched in the face once or twice, that's where the comic gets really funny because you're like, oh my God, I've had this happen to me.
That's a powerful question.
Yeah, I've had this happen to me.
Making me think the powerful questions. What happened? They had powerful answers.
Very true. Very true. Very true. So let me ask you both this. I don't want to take too much more of your time. What's next? What are the next steps?
Mikkel?
Volume 2.
Oh, so we're so it. Yeah. Do you want to talk a bit about that, Mikkel?
Yeah, well, we don't have any plans sort of set in stone, but and we didn't have any plans for volume 1 either. It was just sort of one thing taking the other, and all of a sudden we had enough content to put into a book, and it had been sort of a little seed in our minds. Maybe we could do a book at some point, and then it just seemed right that now we just need to put this book on the market, right? And I think if we keep on doing this, we'll have another book in a year's time or so. But that's just the channel for the content and the channel for what we do. But we are still talking on what we're going to do. We don't know.
Are there any themes that you haven't covered that maybe you think are coming around the corner?
Sorry, could you
any
repeat, please?
Themes?
Yeah. So we're going to move into phase 2, end of November. I think then all the scripts we made, all the ones in the book, have been released on LinkedIn. Then we're going to move into some more looking into a critical look at the Agile coaching role. So we call ourselves Agile Coach, but who even knows how to coach? We're going to look into descaling. What's the motivation for descaling? Is it something with efficiency? Is that really the right motivation to descale? So we're going to look into more stuff like that and looking retrospectively into what we've been doing as an Agile coach. But I think besides that, we are starting to get you could say, requests on doing talks and stuff like that. Doing workshops like anti-pattern disruption workshops. Based on our comic strips. But both of us, we're very happy in our jobs and all this stuff. But we're looking at people wanting to do more with this. So you never know. But I guess we found something here. We could do some more.
I
Maybe
just
we'll
a
ask
personal
our
request.
audience.
If you can throw something in there about remote, I would love it.
Yes.
I'd love to have your take on remote.
You guys are taking
hybrid,
requests?
even better.
I have a request that if you do something on descaling and you end up drawing Peter Merrill from Xscale, please draw him to look like young Einstein with his hair standing straight out. I love Peter. He's brilliant. He's one of those people I get at a meeting with him and in 5 minutes I'm completely lost and I've got 2 pages of notes. But please just draw him like young Einstein. I think that would be amazing. But I do want to ask, without asking for too much detail, how has the reception been on the actual book? Because I've been following the comic on LinkedIn. Again, I share them all the time. How has the book reception been? Has it been about what you expected? Has it been wildly successful compared to what your preconceived notions were? How has it been so far?
Yeah, so we had no idea what to expect, but maybe Mikkel, you can open the door a bit into how it's going.
It's I just ordered the 4th batch from our printers and had to order 100 more on that batch. So it's been, we didn't, as like Luxshan said, we didn't know what to expect, and we started by printing 200 that were gone in a week, and then 200 more and 300 more. So at least people are buying it, and then we're still in the progress of getting it out. And people are still in the progress of getting the books from the mail office. Yeah. So the actual book is we only have a few very good reactions on the book itself, but at least a lot of people want it as sort of a prize. Again, the people have been very engaged in this community and want to be in on this journey. And it's just so awesome to hear people actually joining our this journey that we have together, and also this good feeling about doing something.
Yeah, so I think we're nearing passing the 1,000 book mark. So including paperback and hardcover and not. What we're seeing is companies ordering it for all the Scrum Masters or all their POs. And that's really cool. Right now, mostly Danish companies.
Who's that company? I want to join them.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We'll move to Denmark.
Yeah, Claudia, yes. That would be a shorter move for you than it would be for me. I'm not putting the dogs in air crates and shipping them across the pond. Would not be successful.
So we're seeing organizations, like coaching camps in Denmark. They want to hand it out as a special gift and stuff like that. So it's starting to get traction. So we're kind of really honored that they think it's that good. They want to give it to their employees and course participants and whatnot. It's like, wow, we didn't know.
Awesome. If nothing else, then you'll have incepted that into somebody else. There's inception for other coaching camps.
Mm-hmm.
So I've made a note to myself. I've got to get the actual physical copy so that I can give myself a pop quiz. Do I get what's funny in that? If not, nope. I got to go back and learn some more.
I get the hardcover one. It's much more. It's much more collectible. It's cooler than the paperback.
Yeah, in hindsight, I'm going to order that right after this, and then I'm going to regift. I think I'm going to send my soft copy to my old boss because I think she would get a kick out of it. And some of the complaints that she had, and we were in the transformation office, and some of the tough, not complaints, but some of the tough, the sticky wickets that we had to get past, you guys actually really effectively nail during the course of a comedic narrative, right? I mean, the picture that I can close my eyes and it keeps jumping out at me is the section on the product owner, where it's the guy standing there with the PO hat and he's got the mouse in his hand and he just looks completely defeated. And right there, like I open it up, and again, it was one of those like, oh, like I feel sort of uncomfortable because this is too on the nose, right? This is how they feel and how they get treated. So it's, so please, if you're listening to this episode, please go out and get a copy of the book. And Mikkel, Luxshan, where can people go if they want to get a copy? Where should they go?
They should go to our website.
Okay.
comicagile.net agile.com/book.
Perfect.
But I'm pretty sure that a Google search could do it for you as well if you didn't get the URL here.
Okay. And of course, for our listeners, I will put it in the show notes. But in case you are an audio and not a visual person, you don't like to read our show notes, I don't blame you. Please go to that website. So we're going to wrap this up. So I want to ask any final thoughts. Luxshan, I'm going to start with you. Any final thoughts? Any final announcements? Do you have any presentations you're giving? Any conference talks? I know we're all in the virtual world now. Any final thoughts you want to pass on to our listener base?
Not really, just keep fighting. That's what we're doing in these agile roles. I hope we'll start to have more conversations with the ones who don't get it. We're good at blaming our managers and whatnot, but let's look towards ourselves and start having more conversations about this. Let's remember, working agile is a means to something. Find out what that something is and start having conversations. That's
perfect. No, that's
kind of
perfect.
Deep,
perfect.
Kind of deep, right?
Nicholas, how about you?
I think Luxshan said it. It's just Thanks for everyone that gave us some comments or share or like. That's what keeps us going.
Perfect.
Thank you. And thank you for having us.
Oh well, it was our pleasure. Truly, it was our pleasure.
Loved it,
and for those listeners, this literally happened via LinkedIn. Because somebody, one of you posted, "Hey, we want to get on the road and do some speaking about the book. Where can we go?" And Claudia tagged me, and then one thing led to another, and then here we are recording an episode. So the wonders of LinkedIn as a social networking platform. But I will say this: if you are going to use LinkedIn, please don't be one of those existential buffoons who post these things that you think is deeper than it actually is. Because we're all laughing, but we're not laughing with you. All right, Claudia, take us home.
Okay. So if you've enjoyed this episode, if you could give us a review or a rating, leave comments on iTunes, your podcasting platform of choice. It'll help others find us. And we want to thank Krebs from Machine Man Records, who has provided us our outro music free of charge. If you've liked what you've heard, check out links in the show notes and find out more. If you're looking for some real-time discussion, you can join our Discord server and talk about crazy everyday agile stuff, or non-agile. Hey, we talk about everything and anything in there. And we intend for the Agile Uprising to be totally free of charge. So if you'd like to contribute and help us with hosting and productions costs. God, I'm never going to get this outro right, am I? We do have a Patreon. So help us out here and you'll probably get something in the mail from Jay.
Yes. You may or may not get a surprise from me. So once again, I want to thank Luxshan and Mikkels for joining us. I want to thank, on behalf of Claudia, myself, Luxshan and Mikkels, I want to thank all of you listeners for tuning in once again. So until next time, this is the Agile Uprising podcast, signing out.